want to tell you about a little trip I took this past summer. This is the place that I was 3 years ago when I first talked about We Are All Homeless. It's an art project that I've been doing for 22 years, and it was there that I talked about buying and collecting homeless signs. I showed some of the examples of art projects that I'd done, installations, a quilt that I worked on with my sister. I talked about what home means. Is it a place? Is it a feeling? And I talked about my relationship with my dad, which in some ways I've connected to this project. So it was during this speech that I said, you know, one day I want to raise some money and travel across the country and buy signs. So in 2013, I decided to make that happen. My friend Tim, who is far more organized than I am, put together a lot of spreadsheets, and he and I planned this trip. We talked about the cities we were going to visit, the costs, the logistics, how far we'd have to go before we shipped signs back. And we finally decided on a route. 31 days, 24 cities, beginning in Seattle, going down to San Diego, ending in New York City. Lot to get done. And to raise the money, we decided to launch an Indiegogo campaign. That campaign blew me away. I had no idea so many people were going to support and love this project. It was amazing. It was also when one of the scariest parts of this whole deal happened. My good friend David, at the very end of this campaign, donated a large amount of money and said, "You said you want to make a documentary film. I want it to be a feature-length film." That's when this got real for me, and I was terrified. And thank you, David, for expanding my vision. That allowed us to add 2 more filmmakers and a car to our project. And so on June 30th in Seattle, we began, and this was our team. Eamon from New York, Olivia from Seattle, my old friend Tim, the organized one from Virginia, and me. We had 2 rented Dodges, and we had no idea what was about to happen. There's no way that I could tell you all that happened in the next 31 days, but let me just tell you, it changed me forever. It was powerful. It was exhausting, physically and emotionally, and it was so gratifying. There were the signs themselves, and I can't show you all of the signs, but I want to show you just a few. This one from Seattle, San Francisco, Philly, Cincinnati, Omaha, Chicago, Las Vegas, one of my favorites from Los Angeles, Indianapolis. Here's another one from Philly, something to ponder. What if God occasionally visits Earth, disguised as a homeless guy, panhandling to see how charitable we are? Completely hypothetical, of course. Let me tell you, there are some philosophers on the streets. Eddie was one of them. Sometimes it was the back of the sign that blew me away, like this little message scrawled in red ink on the back of a sign that I bought in Detroit. As amazing as the signs themselves are, the people behind those signs were equally amazing. I wish I could tell you about all of the people we met in those 31 days, but I want to introduce you to a few of them. Owen in Portland, and Paulie, the guy that he took care of. This was Neil in San Francisco, who had recently lost his wife. Chaz Kyle in Denver. Nigel in New York. When I first met Danelle, she was in Albuquerque. She and her son and their 2 cats were on the streets for 3 years. It was because of the cats that she wasn't in a shelter. She said that no shelter in Albuquerque would take her cats. She told me if she won the lottery, she would start her own homeless shelter and call it Pets with People. Danelle is 78 years old. I met Michael in Omaha. That Indian headdress sign that you saw earlier was his. He hangs out with some Lakota Native Americans, and they share all of the food and money that they collect. Michael had one leg, was a veteran. Probably one of the most memorable experiences I had on the trip. We were in a Burger King parking lot after this interview when I completely broke down in tears. And that's when the dream team, my crew, told me that getting me to cry on camera was like shooting fish in a barrel. They are correct. That is true. Cheryl was sitting on a milk crate at a busy intersection in Detroit when I pulled up. I was alone in the car. The team was back at the hotel editing footage, and I told them I'm going and buying signs. I pulled up to Cheryl and offered to buy her sign. When I gave her the $15, she screamed and reached her arm inside the car and hugged my neck. That had never happened before. I pulled away and I was so excited, and then I realized I had forgotten to turn the cameras on. So with a little dread, I texted back to the team and I said, hey, here's what happened. Eamon writes back immediately, you're fired. At which point I make a U-turn and I said, I'm going back. So I come back, and by the way, we were handing out these little business cards to everybody that we met. It had links to our project on it and a homeless sign on the other side. So I'd given one to Cheryl. She no longer had a sign. So I pull back up. Here's Cheryl sitting on the milk crate. She's holding that little business card up as if anybody could see what that was. So I had a good laugh, and she and I finally got to have our interview on camera. I met Ellie, this dark-haired young woman in the front of this photo, in Baltimore. 17 years old, Romanian, speaks 5 languages. All she wants is to go to school. She and her family have been in and out of homelessness for years. As remarkable as meeting Ellie was, it was just as remarkable to meet Patty. She does not like cameras. Patty spends her days on the streets of the scariest parts of Baltimore, passing out supplies, clothes, and condoms to mostly underage girls on the streets. We got to ride around with her and do that for about 2 hours. When people say nice things about my project, I say, if you really want to see courage and compassion, I want you to meet Patty. She loves to give people nicknames. She now calls me Cardboard. In San Diego, a woman named Donna, that I did not even know, through Facebook decided to put on a benefit concert for us to raise a couple $100 so that we could buy more signs. I got to meet all of these terrific songwriters, and it was there I met Lisa. Lisa dedicated a song named Angels to me, causing me to cry once again on camera. And I'll be very surprised if this song does not end up in the documentary. The first day of the trip, I did an interview with Real Change magazine in Seattle. It was at this point I had very low expectations about whether the media would care at all about this little project. I was wrong. Over the next 30 days and since then, I could not have imagined what happened. By the time we got to St. Paul, one of the stories that was written about the project was picked up by the Associated Press. I got to Washington, D.C., and I got to go to the offices of NPR and do an interview with All Things Considered. On about the day 17 or 18, we were number 2 on the homepage of Reddit. I knew this because my students were blowing my phone up. Now, I can tell you that this is a huge deal because I was sharing the home screen with a rabbit that had its paws on a sleeping human. It's hard for me to tell you about the impact of this trip. We ended up buying 292 signs. Those 2 rented Dodges, we drove 7,600 miles. We got 138 million media impressions. I'm still learning about what impact really means. In January, thanks to Help USA, they sponsored an exhibit of the signs at the Kimmel Center at NYU. Thank you, Maria, for that. It took 3 full days to install this show. It was up for 3.5 weeks, and at the end we did a closing panel discussion where I got to hear questions and hear the impressions of NYU students. I love listening to students. They are my teachers. By the way, I got tennis elbow doing that installation. I love going to middle schools. I love going to any schools and sharing this project with students. I got to speak in Indiana at the Center for the Homeless. I got to meet these high school students who had just produced their own movie about homelessness. At J.L. Long Middle School here in Dallas, after a presentation, their genius teacher, Tammy, decided to have them brainstorm ideas to help my project. They did that, and one by one they came on stage to tell me them, and I had to pick the winner, which was a lot of pressure. The winning idea, they were going to produce a video that they were going to send to Ellen DeGeneres to get me on her show. Now that is creative thinking. This also impacts my friends. I've got a friend named Andy who for many years thought I was nuts for buying signs. He has a daughter who is now in college. Andy went from thinking I was crazy to buying me a sign almost every time I saw him. He sent me this photo a few months ago of his daughter in San Francisco who bought this sign so she could send it to her dad to send to me. That really, really makes me happy. Gratitude is really the thing I'm taking away from this project. I want to share an email I got from a complete stranger named Cindy. You broke my heart and broke me out of my depression. I understand you don't know me from Adam, but your project has touched me in a way I never thought was possible again. There, but for the grace of God. Tears are streaming as I try to type this because I just realized there is something so much bigger than my life and addictions. Either way, thank you. Thank you for knowing just what to do with your life. It's not just those random connections. I'm grateful for my students, for all the people who love me, my friends and my family, who support me through my crazy ideas. My mom and dad for doing the best that they could with what they had. For Tanya, your unending patience and those 31 cards. This project is for all of you. It's for all of us. We all struggle. We all have hopes and dreams. We all, in our own way, have an answer to the question, what does home mean? We are all homeless. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.